The title of that song is called Emily, and it was written and performed by my guest today, Olivia Ellen Lloyd. Olivia, welcome to the Friday Afternoon Music Mix.
Hi, thanks. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. I met you recently through a DJ forum. Was really impressed when I downloaded your 2021 album titled Loose Cannon. Was also noticed that you're originally from Shepherdstown, West Virginia, which I spent a lot of time in that area. I was 18 years in the DC area and did a lot of traveling in around Shepherdstown, Shepherd College, and that area through there. So I latched right onto that, and I noticed that one of the songs on your 2021 album is called Shepherdstown. Tell me a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, well, I'm a third generation Shepherdstown resident in my family, and an nth generation. We don't even know how long we've been there in West Virginia. And so the town holds a lot of, family energy. Specifically, all my family still lives there, but also there's just a lot of history in that town for me and for the people that I care about. My grandfather actually was mayor for quite a long time.
Oh,
So his
really?
name is still his name is still on a couple of buildings, and there's a street named after him when you're headed down towards the Potomac River. So I feel really lucky to have grown up there. I feel really lucky to be from West Virginia, and especially from Shepherdstown, which is a really beautiful little town. It's the oldest town in West Virginia. People say it's haunted. I could agree with that statement. I think I'm a little I'm not quite sure how I feel about the existence of ghosts, but if there are any, they're definitely in Shepherdstown.
That's great. Such a beautiful town and a beautiful college campus that's there. And of course,
Yes.
you're close to a lot of history with Harper's Ferry, and of course, Charlestown, West Virginia, where John Brown's trial was taken. I mean, it's just a very beautiful area.
Yes,
Um,
the history is amazing.
it is indeed. I understand that at least one of your parents is an artist. They're very supportive of you with your endeavors.
Yeah, so I'm from a very creative family in general, but my father was a musician also. He sadly passed away in 2014, but he taught me how to sing and how to play the guitar. He was my first bandmate. We would play a lot of like coffee shops when I was in high school together.
Oh, that's great. What's your mother do?
My mother is a school counselor, a retired school counselor, but she's also very creative. She's a really brilliant writer. And I like to think that becoming a songwriter was sort of a natural progression for me because my dad played a lot of music. He didn't write a lot of his own songs, but played a lot of music. And my mom is a voracious essayist, and I think hopefully one day we'll put a book out. And so it just made sense that I ended up sort of combining those two things into
That's
into a
terrific.
songwriting career.
That's
Yeah.
terrific. And you wrote all of the music on Loose Cannon, didn't you?
Yes, all of the songs are written just by me. Looking forward to exploring the co-writing world when I get to Nashville, but there's not as much of that happening up in New York.
Right. You're in the process of relocating from the New York area down to Nashville to further your
hmm
career. And I understand you have a new album that you're working on as well that will be coming out. Will it be sometime this year or in 2023?
I think it's going to end up being 2023. We're kind of going slow and steady with it. But yes, I am full to the brim with new songs, and we've been demoing out the best ones. I'm hoping to start sending them out for consideration before inevitably being turned down and making the whole thing myself, which I have no problem with, but it's typically what happens.
That's great. That's great. Let's do a second song from that album that you've chosen. How about River Runs? That sound good?
Sounds great to me.
How that evening turned so quickly in the morning. I ain't never seen this side. 6 a.m. Could you hold me for a second and imagine that there bluegrass, nothing to do. I'd hold my breath, let the river run.
It's a terrific song as well. One of the things that I noticed is that you cross genres a lot on this album, which I found fascinating. I mean, bluegrass, country, some beautiful ballads. What inspires you to write this kind of music, Olivia?
Well, certainly growing up in West Virginia is going to make especially traditional ballads, bluegrass and country music come to the top of your mind when it comes to inspiration. Like I said, I'm really lucky to be from West Virginia, a place with such rich cultural and musical heritage, and with so many brilliant songwriters. Hazel Dickens is one of my favorite songwriters, and she's a bluegrass musician from West Virginia. And I think, growing up with a parent who played a lot of bar gigs, which means that he played 3 to 5 hours of material, means that I was just exposed to a lot of different genres because, you want to keep things interesting for your audience and for yourself. So he would play everything from like Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead to like he'd pull Doc Watson's song out, and sometimes he'd do Tom Petty. And I think that kind of hearing all of those songs sort of meld together in a set. And I do that now too. I play bar gigs every once in a while in New York, and I try to keep it pretty eclectic. I think I have a great appreciation for traditional music, and especially traditional folk and bluegrass music. And I also am always curious to see what people bring to those traditional sounds from their own, experiences outside of that music. I don't think that genre exists in a vacuum. In fact, genre is like really just a helpful marketing tactic. And so what I wanted to do with this album is embrace the full breadth of my own musical taste and my own musical influences, while also staying true to my roots and my biggest musical heroes.
My special guest today is Olivia Ellen Lloyd. Her recent release from 2021 is called Loose Cannon. Would invite our listeners to especially listen to her music from that album that's on her website at olivialloydmusic.com and on your YouTube channel. There's some really great videos on there, Olivia. I really liked River Run. For God's Sakes is great. You did a great cover of John Prine's Bruised Orange on there as well. All three I really loved a lot. Even enjoyed you out in the field doing a little solo gig near the Antietam battlefield there in Maryland. That was great.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a little worried the ghosts might feel disturbed by the gig, but it seems like it went over pretty well.
It did.
Yeah, I love playing with a band and I like playing solo. I feel lucky that I get to do both with pretty good regularity.
You do. The Loose Cannon video that you do is great. All of these videos and can be seen on your website at olivialloydmusic.com or on your YouTube channel. I played once before a beautiful ballad that you wrote called In the Valley. I think that's one of the prettiest songs I've ever heard. It's just really gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Really wonderful.
Oh, that song is inspired. I lived in Guatemala City for a time, and that song is inspired by the women that I worked with there at an organization called UPAVIM, which is Unidas para Vivir Mejor, which United for a Better Life. And these women, it's a completely woman-run cooperative that seeks to build a safe community space in Esperanza, which is one of the more dangerous neighborhoods in Guatemala City, which in and of itself is a relatively high crime city. So that's sort of a love letter to the women that I worked with there.
It's fantastic. It really is.
Thank you.
I also noticed that in Brooklyn, you work in a trio and it's called Wife Time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the story behind that name?
Yes. So Brooklyn has a really quirky and extremely tight-knit acoustic music scene that I feel really, really lucky to have found. Just some of the loveliest people I've ever met in the music industry. And there aren't that many of us. New York City is not what you think of as like the top destination for bluegrass and country music, but we're a real solid, tight crowd. We're all really good friends. And we have a couple of great supporters, and one of them is this lovely guy named Dave. Dave, I don't want to give his full name in case it would embarrass him. I don't think it would, just in case. Dave comes to everybody's shows. And not only does Dave come to everybody's shows, he will publicize your show for you. He has like a little blog, a blog that he posts on, and he'll tell everybody. It's called Dave's Picks. It's on Facebook. And he'll tell everybody all of the gigs that are happening that week. But he takes days off, and it's not often. Like, he's typically seeing music 7 days a week, and it's like multiple venues, multiple gigs that he drives around the city to see. And like, he's the first guy to put $5 in the tip jar. He will live stream your shows. Like, he's a really avid supporter of all of ours. His off days, when he's not listening to music, live music, he calls it wife time because he's like hanging out with his wife. And I always joked with him. I was like, Dave, I'm just going to start a band called Wife Time. And every time you say that it's wife time, we're going to have a gig. And it was like this ongoing joke Dave and I had forever. And then my friends, Andrea and Sam, and I have been playing in this trio, and it's been so awkward because we haven't been able to find a name. And they were like, the Olivia, Sam, and Andrea trio. And it's like, just like, we couldn't figure it out. And then one time I was like, jokingly at a gig, I was like, and we're wife time. And it just stuck. And promoters hate the name. They get so confused by it. But like, the three of us think it's so funny. We just like haven't stopped calling ourselves that.
Oh, I think it's hilarious. It's a great
Oh,
name,
good.
really. And the story is just fantastic. I read a little bit about it on your website, so I knew I had to ask you about it. It's great.
Thank you.
Good. You got some gigs coming up, I see, close to your home, Charlestown, the West Virginia Festival on the 18th of June, the Brooklyn Americana Festival on the 26th of June. Look like you were busy up through the end of July, pretty much.
Yes, I am. And I'm yeah, all of these gigs are basically through the Mid-Atlantic and New England region. But yeah, I am very busy through the end of July, and then gonna take a little time off and focus on recording. But yeah, I think most of your listeners are probably on the West Coast, but if you happen to be on the East Coast in June or July, you might find me somewhere between Tennessee and New York City. I think I'm playing a gig like every 3 days between June 18th and July 22nd.
You got a busy schedule coming up, and they can
Yeah.
see your schedule, by the way, on your website at
Mhm.
Olivia Lloyd Music.com. You can see her schedule. You can see some great videos that she's got on, and you can even listen to her 2021 album, Loose Cannon. Olivia, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been a real pleasure to get to talk to you after just listening to a minute of you here a few weeks ago. I enjoy that album, and please remember me for the new one when it is released next year. And if you get up
Absolutely.
into Pacific Northwest on one of your tours, please let me know, and I can have you come by the studio and bring your guitar and put you on the air live.
I would love that. And I'm really hoping to get back to the West Coast as sooner rather than later.
That sounds great. Let's go out with the third song that you've chosen for today, and it's called High Lonesome.